good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to The Future is Female. This is the show where we find the extraordinary in every woman. Now, to celebrate International Women's Day this year, we're stepping outside the studio to bring you a special episode where we have a forum discussion, a panel discussion at a forum to discuss the Gender Parity in Political Representation Act. It's an event organised by MalaysiaKini and Empower, supported by the Canadian High Commission, and it's going to be an exciting panel discussion. Let's find out more.
And what's wonderful is we have some politicians, elected representatives, and political insiders here with us today that we can pose this question to. So let's begin, shall we? And if I may put YB Shuki on the spot. Sorry, you knew I was going to begin with you. So DAP has, as Gopal mentioned, is one of the parties, or I think it's the only party, is committed to fielding 30% women candidates in the next general elections. Walk us through the process, actually. For all of us who are not politicians, who may not know what goes on behind the scenes, what is that process like when a party determines who they're fielding in elections? Walk us through what they're considering and who makes that decision.
Thank you, Melisa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Melisa, and all my panelists, and thank you for inviting me here. For DAP, there is no specific rule saying that how we select a candidate, but basically two different routes. The first one, categorization. So you need to rise up from grassroots along the rank and file, then reach the status of candidates. That is the first route. The normal route, just like any other ordinary member. Another one is, of course, parachuted, handpicked. I wouldn't say parachuted, but handpicked. For example, I myself was handpicked by Anthony Loke many years ago to join the party because nobody wanted to join an opposition, a perpetuate opposition party then. So he engaged me, asked me to join, and within within 3 years, I get the candidature after 2 years. Compared to many other veteran or members who joined much earlier, a longer time, but never gotten the chance to be fielded, I am the one who consider fast track. But not parachuted. I go back to my kampong anyway. So, but it was considered another route. So basically, it's two different routes.
Okay, all right. So having said that, that's the different ways to get there. But who makes that determination? Who's the one deciding? Is it the party president? Is there a committee? Who decides in DAP?
Depends. So a decade ago, Anthony Loke was not even the number 2 or number 3 in the party. He was only director of the political education department in the party. So it was a very junior rank position in the PCC. However, he decided that he need to engage young candidates, and not only him alone. Many other leaders then, I'm sure you heard about Tony Phua. So Tony Phua aggressively engaged young female candidates and recruit them to join the party and eventually fielded them as candidate. For example, YB Teo Nian Ching, now the Deputy Minister for Communication. She was fielded as candidate 2008 when she was only 26 or 28 years old. So he was engaged by Tony Phua. And beside her, Hannah Yeoh, also 2008, engaged by Tony Phua. And beside that, my batch, Yeoh Bi-in, engaged by Tony Phua, 2013. And after that, there are many other people. So I would say that not necessarily a high-ranking leaders who can deliver the job, but I'm sure you notice it was actually the man who took up the initiative. And especially within my party, I would thank the few male leaders who took the initiative and really proactively engage the potential, get the women in, and groom them, nurture them to become a candidate at the end.
Okay, so you need an ally within the kind of who is already sat at the table, who may have the source of power that you were talking about. We'll come back to DAP, but let's find out the PKR experience. YB Rosia, talk to me a little bit about the PKR process. Is it similar to DAP? Is it different? And your journey personally.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, PKR, we have a little bit structured procedures. We can go through division level. We can propose our name from division or from the women's wing. We can propose a candidate, or we open for the public to propose their name, their own name, by certain criteria they need to put in. So we have 3 ways opening the candidacy. So everybody can propose, and they themselves can propose themselves to be a candidate. After that, what will happen? I'm talking about recent. I don't know what will happen next year. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I am a part of the committee that in charge of the candidates, to vet through, to screening and everything, and then we shortlisted the name. After that, the committee will shortlisted, head by the deputy president, and then we have shortlisted 3 names. And then for sure, I have benefit there because I'm a lady, I'm a woman, you know. I always remind them, we don't have enough women's candidate. We should find, if the names is not from the party list, then we have the people that already voluntarily want to be the candidates. Why not we scooping from outside candidate? Okay. So we have 2 ways.
So yang tu parachute juga ke?
Ada. Ada, memang ada. I think same thing. Yeah, same thing. The AP, all parties is like that. All parties like that. But after we shortlist the 3 names, the 3 candidates, for sure we have the incumbent, you know. Sometimes we have, we want more young leaders to be in. So actually, we screening a lot of levels.
Okay. Can you elaborate more? So when you're that vetting process, that screening process, I am curious to know what makes the cut and where gender sits in that list.
Okay. Because we have the mapping, let's say Parti Pak Keadilan, we're contesting about 100 seats. Then 100 seats means we need to have 30 names, yeah, minimum. By right, you should put more because we don't know whether it can winnable or not. The problem is we fight for the winnable seats, but sometimes we cannot get it. Yeah, or just okay, enough for the numbers. Now you're getting 13 names, but it's okay, it's enough. So can you imagine me alone as a lady, a woman in there, and then we need to fight with the leadership that all men, you know. So sometimes if we say that, let's say my constituency before, I am from Batu Tiga for the states level. Not even we ask for the replacement for the women candidate, but sometimes the seat is no more. It's given to other party. You know, it's something like sometimes it's not our level. There is an upper level to decide. Yeah.
Because coalition politics requires that kind of negotiation as well.
So a lot of level we need to consider.
Okay. I want to come back later to your experience in Ampang, which I think is fascinating. We all remember that, but I will refresh your memory shortly. I want to come to MUDA. MUDA famously said that they are egalitarian and want to be equal in terms of its commitment to gender. Talk to me about your experience and how MUDA approaches gender equality when it comes to who runs or who is fielded.
Okay, thank you very much, Mel. I think we only had been through 3 elections. The first one was Johor, and then after that the GE in 2022, both in 2022, and then the recent one is of course the 6 state elections. I think throughout these 3, the most remarkable or like something that we can really remember is actually the very recent election, which is the 6 state election, where we we successfully put in, successfully put in 51% of women candidates.
Oh, wow.
51% candidate. But it wasn't an easy journey, obviously, because number one, we don't put in like 50 candidates overall. Of course, we do not have such capacity with such small party, number one. Number two, the fact that I think I remember vividly, it was me, YB Amira, and also Cikgu Rahayu, who were like just sitting down with Syed Sadiq at that point of time and tell him that, you know what, you're just gonna take what we ask you and that's it. And then obviously this is what we demand at that point of time. And obviously he was like being the male politician in him. Of course, he was, why do we need this? Like why? And etc. So of course you have to educate and tell him, not just him. Of course, the central executive committee to tell them like what's it needs, etc. That's one thing. But obviously throughout this past 4 years. In MUDA, I think the most important thing to also acknowledge the fact that not everyone actually understands what is gender equality. Why do we need such thing? Even if you are in such a small or a very young party. So
even in 2026.
Exactly. So you actually have to make them understand like, okay, why do you need such policy in the party? Why do you actually put certain parties have to put that in constitution, for example? So these are still are the struggle in the party. But obviously one thing for sure is that once we have put the cap of like filling in that 51% in our last election, we can never go down. You know, like everyone would just go on and on that MUDA you put like 51%, even though it's just like, I think, okay, I can't remember in total, but yeah, there is already that kind of percentage put, and obviously people will just come to you and say that, are you going to put below 50%? You know?
You've set the threshold, you set the benchmark, you can't go back. Dr. Shaza, next to me. So, YB Rosia mentioned a bit earlier that it's not just about fielding a woman candidate, it's about fielding her in a winnable seat. So she's not just a number on a checklist that makes up the quota. In your experience, your observations, talking to political parties and observing the political landscape in the country, where is the bottleneck? Where do you see the bottleneck? Is it in getting women candidates to be fielded, or is it in fielding them in winnable seats? Why is it that our women representation in terms of elected representatives sangat dismal?
Thank you. So where's the bottleneck? Maybe I'll just start by saying that my research is mostly on political sociology, so I'm looking on the ground. So I see there's like this two level. We're talking firstly about getting these women into politics. I think was discussed earlier, right? We all agree that women are competent. In fact, we have more women that, not more, I should not say more, right? But we have equally good women that could join politics. But I think like was mentioned earlier, they are not motivated to join politics. So that's number one. When you don't have enough women in political parties in the first place, where are you going to get these candidates? So then we get the parachutes that YB Rosia kept mentioning earlier. So that's number one. How do we get them in? So there was the 17-year-old, is it you? Yeah, that was saying that, you know, younger generation, they are interested and whatnot. But sometimes, if I may say this, we have this kind of bubble where we're looking maybe at certain groups within Malaysia, right? Have we thought about those in Terengganu, in Kelantan? Are they interested? Are they that motivated? Do they understand this gender parity that we're talking about? If MUDA also has an issue with it, I'm not sure how it is out there. We're not talking in the kampungs, but just outside of KL, outside of Selangor, right? So that's one thing. So the second, I think, is what all the YBs have mentioned, is the party itself. Yes, the GPPR wants to put 30%, but our fear is that it's just in numbers, right? Are they going to put in winnable seats? So that's what discussed earlier, the incumbency issue. Will these men let go of these seats? So I'm not gonna touch the retirement age thing, but so that is that bottleneck. Will the parties really put them in winnable seats? And besides just winnable seats, sometimes we have to think of the marginal seats. I think in marginal seats, they like to put men, right? Because there's this expectation that men are more likely to win, right?
What do you mean marginal seats?
Those, there are 50% chance that they're going to win, or they're going to lose it. So in those kind of seats that are risky for these parties, they like to put men.
Okay.
The understanding is that we live in a patriarchal society that prefers men.
I really like this point. So let's expand on this point. Let's think this through, whether women are deployed differently from men in electoral strategy. YB Rosia, can I get you to share the Ampang experience? So I'm just going to refresh for anyone who's forgotten, okay? The Ampang seat in GE 15 was one of the most closely watched seats. It was an 8-corner fight. There were 8 candidates. No, I'm sorry. My apologies, 9, because there were independents as well, right? Yes, okay. It was a 9-corner fight, and I think five women ran for that. The incumbent was Datuk Zuraida Kamarudin, and it was fascinating to watch because I did some numbers in terms of all the seats in that had one female candidate. 20 seats had more than one women candidate. So out of every 100, there'll be 20 that has more than one. So my question really is, are women more likely to be fielded against other women? Is there this dynamic where you have to have a woman against another woman, especially if the incumbent is a woman? Do political parties consciously or unconsciously match a woman with a woman? And can you tell us more?
Actually, when the party proposing a candidate, it is very, very normal that they will say that like something like this. We foresee that our opponent will be a women candidate. We put a women candidate, but I didn't agree about that. I didn't agree.
Why?
Because myself, 3 terms in Batu Tiga, I contested with men. So I think that shouldn't be the variables that we put in. Women must, if there is a women candidate, we put women to contest against women. So for me, it shouldn't be like that.
But why is it like that? Why is that the prevailing thinking?
I think that is only something that they feel that is better women contest against women. But actually, the party should come up with the research. As a political party, you want to win. This is not about men or women. It's about, is it the seat is actually for the party. That should be the way. So when we fight for it, we should fight. It's not about gender.
Yeah.
But some people said, women candidate more chance to win certain area. Certain area. I did agree that. More chance to win.
And what increases her chances to win? Is
Some-
it the voter? Is it
The voters.
Is it her legacy? What is it?
I think the voters, because let's say, this is my fact findings. I don't know about.
This
the
is not
really
peer
facts,
reviewed yet.
It's not theory. Like sometimes when the candidates, they have the reputation is different. But we have candidates that no reputation at all. They are newcomers, but actually it's suitable for me for the rural area because the approaching women looks like be more will be chosen by the voters. This is my facts finding as a women political election committee. I feel that certain area suitable for women candidate, but men still feel that no, this is the place we should put in.
So you mean there's resistance, internal resistance?
My point is, even though we come up with the facts and figures, this is a potential candidate that come from our party, is a ladies, and then even though we have that facts and figures, sometimes the resistance is there by the political our own political party. You know?
Okay. Why be shooting? I see you nodding.
Especially if the name that we propose is not the head of division or somebody in the division.
Okay, hierarchy matters.
Yeah.
Okay. YB?
Now, who to deploy and whether gender plays a role in the process, I would say to DAP, it is not so much in terms of gender. To DAP, it is very clear that we just send whoever we think is the most winnable candidate. And most of the time, gender is not a key factor in our final decision. So in 2008, we witnessed Tony Phua defeated MCA candidate who was a female, Dato Chu Mei Fan. So we sent male candidates to contest against women incumbent. And in 2013, my first election in my state, we basically we had only four incumbent seats then in Johor. So all the newbies, including myself, especially women, we contest against male candidates or incumbents. So I would say that in the last 1 decade, my party actually has a strategy that sends women to contest against male incumbents, and we find it quite impactful.
From the both of you, what I'm curious to know is how do you think the gender parity bill might be accepted by politicians and the public? And what needs to happen next? If you were to advise Empower and Project 30%, what advice would you give them to make sure that there's progress on this, that we're moving forward? Aini?
Well, I think I had the same kind of like question while sitting and listening just now, because like, you know, a lot of like the questions were like, what's the timeline like? What's next? You know, sending in all this memorandum, like what's next? And it's also important to know like what that timeline is, because at the end of the day, are we able to achieve before GE16, which is obviously by next year, all right? Or like what's the aim? Like it's good to have the aim before GE16, but I think most importantly, as for political party, as mentioned by Manny just now, I think at the end of the day we have to understand that it's the political will comes from political party. Right? We can have like this, for example, but at the end of the day, if political party can't even adopt domestically on how they want to run in their own political party, then you know, things will just be there. I was just speaking to like my friend just now earlier on. I said that, you see, this incentive fund, right? My take is that big political parties, why would they care about it? Because like they don't need such funds because they're big party, they have lots of funds, etc. But for small political party like us, we need it. So maybe we want to look at that angle as well, because we're not going to penalize them if, let's say, they're not going to achieve that, right? But so why would they care? Like, as mentioned earlier, generally how Malaysians vote is how strategically we put in campaign, number one. Number two, generally Malaysians just don't see between men and women on who to vote. So at the end of the day, if nothing happens to political party who does not follow such law that we enact at the end of the day, then what's the purpose of doing it? So I think, well, I'm also figuring out still, I'm going to go back and think, but I'm also figuring out like, if let's say we don't penalize, and if we do penalize, what will happen? Because we're here to actually encourage participation of women in political party, and we also do not want to scare political party before they field in all these women. Yeah.
Aini is a tireless lawyer, I should also mention. She has a legal background.
Right. I like that point because I was thinking the same thing actually. While I was sitting there, I was thinking exactly the same thing, that because there's this differentiation between big parties and small parties, and you put it there that there's no restriction for small parties. Okay, fine. But it's not just there's no restriction. I feel like smaller parties will be more incentivized, right? Because of what you just said. Bigger parties, and you were saying that it's much more difficult to get through the door of some bigger parties. I think because of that, why would they care? It doesn't affect them. They have the funding wherever they are. So it's not a top priority. Okay, but going back to Mel's question about how to, advise, to be honest, the three YBs have talked about political parties. I'm not going to touch that. So I will go back to the grassroots. Unfortunately, I have to say that because politicians vote based on what they think their constituent want. So and what they think will get them to be voted again in the next coming election and future elections. So this is at the top of their mind. So again, I have to repeat myself what I said earlier. If this is not important for their constituent, it's not important to them. So we have to go back, at the end of the day, go back to the people. And I know we've done this for decades already in Malaysia. We've gone here and there, everywhere, all levels of society, but somehow it doesn't reach them. I think that's where we have to look at. I mean, I can talk more about the Malay psyche, Malay sociology and whatnot, but basically, because that's my specialization on the Malays, and they are the majority, we can't ignore that. So if you want to get this through, we have to get through them as well.
Sorry, Malik, I just want to add a little bit when I said about like how domestic law ataupun domestic policy in political party can actually impact such decision when we do this. Actually, because if let's say like macam YB Rosia sebutkan earlier on, right? She was the only one there, for example, in the committee. So her voice just represent like one voice. Imagine if let's say domestically we can put in like more women leadership, to actually put forward like what's the need, right? Like I was having that such tough time to actually explain to all like the members, etc. So then putting in very important key women leaders in political party to make decision is also important.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with Hani. Okay. Actually, I think we need to. We need the political party to do the structural reform. It means that we cannot only mention about, we must put generally 30%. Maybe we need to define, let's say the deputy president, we have 7, so you must have 3 out of that. If not, no way.
Lagi
no
granular.
Way. So every level, first we must put like that. And then inside the central committee or division committee or the election committee must have the minimum quota 30%, and the rang undang-undang. Yeah, the act is very important. For me, we already mentioned about this years and years, and yet we are the lowest in ASEAN. So it's high time we must have the negative reinforcement. It means rang undang-undang lah, election rang undang-undang. Maybe we need to say that I think a few ASEAN or international country mentioned about is there are no 30% women representation, it means you cannot enter the election.
I think Indonesia.
So it's more strengthened. And then the political party maybe they have no choice. They have no choice. Sometimes I think it's not sometimes. High time to do this.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed that panel discussion. That's all we have for you on this episode of The Future is Female. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening, wanting to wish all of you happy International Women's Day. Goodbye, folks.